I am Dr. Eric Shivian, a professor and director of the Center for Health and the Global Environment at Harvard Medical School. I shared the 1985 Nobel Peace Prize. I am testifying tonight strongly in favor of Cape Wind. Just what is at stake here? If we do not curb our appetites for fossil fuels starting now and embrace major renewable energy projects like Cape Wind, then global warming and climate change will continue to accelerate at great rates. If we defeat this project, we will have foreclosed an important first step toward protecting our children's health, and we will have made a tragic and shamefully ignorant mistake.
As John F. Kennedy said, the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Scientists from all over the world warn that the time to repair our global roof is now.
It's no rumor. The Earth is warming. It's very well established. Sea level, of course, is rising. Sea level has risen. The dock I keep my boat on in Little Harbor in Woods Hole is now awash. It was built roughly 100 years ago, and sea level has risen a foot or two in that time.
We are seeing glaciers melting. We're seeing extreme weather take over all over the world. California is just coming out of intense rains and snows. There were 10 typhoons that battered Japan. There was a hurricane in December in Paris. What we know about the climate comes from more than 2,000 scientists from 100 countries reporting to the UN in what is the largest and most rigorously peer-reviewed scientific collaboration in history.
In an emergency, one takes powerful steps to correct the circumstance. The powerful step here is the development of wind energy.
And if in this country we are truly going to address renewable energy, it's going to come, at least in the eastern states, on offshore wind farms. The Europeans are far, far ahead of us.
Hi, I'm Søren from Denmark, and we have a summer house just around the corner from here, and well, 80 new windmills just out on the sea. It doesn't make a difference for us, so.
Being here in Blavand, are you proud of the windmill park? Is it an attraction?
Well, at first we were a little skeptical because we thought that perhaps it would be a problem with the tourists. But as it has shown, that isn't so. And then after that, we've become grandparents, and now we see how wonderful it is that we have clean energy for our children and grandchildren. We're really glad they're here.
While the rest of the world moves forward towards clean, renewable energy production, America seems stuck, in spite of her considerable contribution to the world's greenhouse gases, as represented on this satellite mapping of our atmosphere. In Massachusetts, there are more asthma sufferers per capita than any other state in the country. Many in the Commonwealth recognize the urgent need to stop burning fossil fuels. In 2001, a proposal from Cape Wind for an offshore wind farm offered what could be America's first clean, renewable, utility-scale offshore energy facility. With low wave height, a shallow untraversed shoal, close proximity to heavy energy demand, and supreme wind resource, Nantucket Sound became the focus for America's first offshore wind farm enterprise. An enterprise with the potential of delivering 420 megawatts, 3/4 of Cape Cod's electrical needs, and offsetting the emission of 1 million tons of CO2 into the atmosphere annually. The Cape Wind proposal for 130 turbines spread out 1/3 of a mile apart over a 24 square mile area became a topic which concerned Cape Cod and the islands, and soon the entire country. And the debate gave rise to Clean Power Now. Clean Power Now is the citizens group which came together to ensure that facts and not ungrounded fears would be the basis for the debate.
Knowing what the benefits that this project will bring, it does seem amazing actually that there are people who would be opposed to this, but there are. And I really think their concerns boil down to the view and the fact that you will be able to see these things. Underlying that is the fact that this is change. Here on the Cape, we've utilized the wind as a source of energy for hundreds of years, but we have not had modern wind turbines on the Cape and Islands before. It is a change, and that creates a fear reaction in people because many folks don't really appreciate why this is so important. They don't see the urgency behind the need to bring renewable energy to our country as soon as possible.
In keeping with the Clean Power Now mission of uncovering the truth, in 2004 the group took it upon themselves to visit a similar 80-turbine wind farm in Denmark. The trip would provide the final evidence to determine the real ramifications of a wind farm on tourism, property values, fishing, wildlife, and most definitely the view.
Right now, as we stand on this bluff, the windmills are about 7.5 miles out on the horizon. At Craigville Beach, they would be 6.5. At Martha's Vineyard, the same view, 9.5. At Nantucket, the same view, 13.5. So this gives you a very good overview of what the horizon would look like in weather that's clear enough to let you see 7 miles out on the horizon.
While Clean Power Now continued to present the facts, the local citizens and their representatives continued to engage in healthy debate.
It's not clear whether there really is significant public benefit here. We're getting a small amount of energy and we're having an enormous impact.
The Senator comments about how it's a small amount of energy, electricity. It's actually, on average, 75% of the Cape and Islands electricity.
We feel that Cape Wind will go a long ways towards eliminating a lot of the air pollutants that cause lung disease.
It's a big push to say you're not even going to see them. I think you are.
As the debate continued, the Army Corps of Engineers, the federal agency charged with the review and permitting of the project, concluded 3 years of study by 17 different agencies. After months of delay, in November 2004, the Army Corps finally released the anxiously awaited environmental draft appraisal. The 4,000-page document was decidedly favorable.
The appraisal is that the environmental effects are very, very small, and the advantages of its use for the production of energy are large indeed.
With the release of this draft environmental impact statement, we now have quantified in detail what the tremendous benefits of this project are, how much it will clean up our air by offsetting dirty fuel emissions, how much that will improve human health. 12 to 15 premature deaths per year will be eliminated by just putting in a wind farm. It will improve our economic base, it will provide jobs, it will provide tremendous economic stimulus and growth for Massachusetts and the New England region. The only negative aspect of this that has been found in 4,000 pages of study over 3 years is the fact that we'll be able to see it. We'll see this wind farm from the beaches. That's the sacrifice that we're being asked to make. And it's a very small sacrifice because this will be the first big step in this country in reversing climate change. And we need to make this happen right here, right now.
It's important to note that the Army Corps study of engineers included an alternative sites analysis, which ran 400 pages in length and included 17 alternative sites for analysis. Horseshoe Shoal in Nantucket Sound was shown to be technically, environmentally, and economically preferable.
It's an essential step, and it's strange from my standpoint to see the political leaders in Massachusetts, Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Delahunt and Mr. Mitt Romney, all opposed to this transition in Nantucket Sound. They're looking just a bit silly at the moment and unconstructive in their current approach.
The Cape Wind Farm would hurt our state's tourism industry.
The governor's statement is in direct contrast to the findings from the Army Corps of Engineers and in direct contrast to Clean Power Now's fact-finding mission.
Blåvand is the second largest tourist area in Denmark. We see an increased number of tourists in the area.
And it would cost untold millions in home values and local taxes.
And this statement is in direct conflict with the findings from the draft environmental impact statement, and again, conflicts with evidence from the Clean Power Now visit to the offshore wind farm in Denmark.
It's no problem. The prices of our houses is higher and higher and higher.
It is stunning that something could get this far without clear legal authority.
We have a National Environmental Policy Act, an array of decisions under that act, surrounding it over years, that protects the public interest. National Environmental Policy Act applies in this particular case.
I asked that the Army Corps of Engineers defer further action on this specific project at this time.
It's all done, delaying it further, making believe that we're going to have a general policy produced that would be more appropriate in this case is just not going to happen.
A moratorium would be disastrous for the Cape Wind project, and I think it would completely halt the development of offshore wind in the country. And that would be a tragedy because one only has to look to the European countries, which are ahead of us by a decade in offshore wind development. I think it would harm our national interests greatly.
In December 2004, the Army Corps began their public comment period with hearings on Cape Cod and the islands. Despite the $5 million spent on a massive oppositional campaign by the Alliance to Protect Nantucket Sound, there were 135 testimonies in favor of the wind farm and only 168 opposed on Cape Cod and the islands. And in Boston, the hearings brought out a huge majority of supporters for the wind farm, with 157 testimonies in favor and only 59 opposed. The Boston hearings also brought out an interesting twist on the usual protest.
Especially the view from because no one cares about what's happening in the Arctic. We want our views, and we want them now.
Tonight's hearing is being conducted as part of the Corps of Engineers regulatory program solely to listen to your comments. This hearing is being conducted as part of the Federal National Environmental Policy Act requirements and the Corps of Engineers regulatory responsibilities to seek out public comment of the draft environmental impact statement.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Carlos Alduondo and I'm speaking in support of the Cape Wind project. As a resident of the town of Hull, I have first-hand experience living in close proximity to a wind turbine. I have heard the arguments that the opposition makes to this project, and in my experience, none of their dire predictions have materialized in my town. Tourism has increased because of the wind turbine in Hull.
And I realize that it's the uncertainties in the proposal that make me nervous.
The energy in Denmark coming from windmills. Currently they have 5,000 windmills there, and the project calls for 4,000 megawatts to come from offshore windmills.
Our grandchildren are going to wonder what on earth we were thinking to remain in such a long period of denial regarding the state of our deteriorating global environment.
I'm opposed to sacrificing this unique unspoiled area for its enormous power plant. And if there are no other suitable locations, then offshore wind power is not going to be a viable industry in this country.
And by switching one thing that we have control over, and that's the kind of power we use, we can actually empower that industry to actually be more viable and enrich their economies.
In addition to providing long-term jobs in the construction of Cape Wind, there'll be jobs in the manufacturing of wind turbine components and permanent full-time maintenance jobs.
Cape Wind won't prevent climate change by itself, but it will offset nearly 1 million tons of carbon dioxide, making this the single most beneficial action we can take to promote energy independence, clean our air, and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions.
I can remember an adage my late father told me one time: if it sounds too good to be true, it is, and I think this is that. I think it's too good to be true.
So this whole move for the wind energy jump so quickly really scares me, because it, to me, seems like we have really not thought this out.
Nantucket Sound should not be turned into an industrial experiment with uncertain economic, safety, and environmental impacts. We have better options.
I say, show me the alternatives. What other renewable energy sources are being developed today?
We only have a few choices. We have nuclear, we have coal, natural gas, oil, and some renewable resource such as wind.
ISO New England that controls the power grid has already said we will be in a capacity shortage in New England in 2006, and that not only are there no current projects, there are no projects in the foreseeable future.
And let us not forget, in a very short 25 years, there's going to be no more oil.
You know, some people ought to think about their choices of transportation. Look at the SUVs you drive and maybe change that a little bit.
When I started in the education in the 60s, we didn't have but one inhaler in our school. When I retired in 2001, my nurse's office was awash in inhalers.
12 to 15 premature deaths every year. Some 200 emergency room visits, 5,000 asthma attacks, and 35,000 cases of daily upper respiratory system.
I am here with my children on my sweatshirt because I'm making a plea for their very health.
If we defeat this project, we will have foreclosed an important first step toward protecting our children's health, and we will have made a tragic and shamefully ignorant mistake.
How many regulations can the power plants flaunt before they are finally shut down? Yes, and how many particulates must fill our lungs before a clean source can be found? Join in if you know it. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many windmills will it take to replace resources that leave the world unstable? Despite what big business would have us believe, pollution is 100% preventable. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Thank you.
I've developed many energy projects in New England, and I'd always look around the room on our natural gas-fired power plants and wonder, where are the supporters for these projects? This Cape Wind project is setting a new paradigm because energy projects by their nature are controversial and they usually don't get much support. But here's a project that is generating people to come out and talk about the future, talk about their environmental future, what their economic future looks like, and they're supporting this project. And that's exciting.
We're in a nexus here right now. This project has really created a nexus not only for the region, but for America, for the United States of America to step out and do the right thing.
This is the birthplace of the American Revolution, and I think what you see here tonight is the beginning of a new American revolution, the clean energy revolution.
The Cape Wind project represents, to me, what could be the flagship project of a whole new energy transition inside the United States.
It's a national example. It's an example for the nation as a whole, which sets examples for the world. It's an example of what we can do in reducing reliance on fossil fuels right now.